action without really overthinking it. You know, they're not always the best decisions, but I always feel like if there's something you want to go for, you need to just run and take action as quickly as possible. And all of the best decisions in my life have been a result of that. On the professional side, I think the biggest hiccups, and it's funny because I've had it a number of times, so maybe I'm not learning from my hiccup, I don't know. But it's like I feel that I get very overexcited by a new idea, or maybe I've learned something abroad and I come and try and implement it in this market, and I'm often too early. And a big part of that is the people you surround yourself with as well. So I mentioned early on that when I started my company, it was a very lonely experience, but I think surrounding yourself with a network and other business owners and knowing who you can call in different situations has made a very big difference.
If you have the chance to travel on time, past or future, where or when do you go?
Wow, that's a great question. I think
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Monday Talks, Daniel Tokat again, and I have a wonderful lady today, and her name is Reim El Houni. I stopped putting words in introducing guests because I prefer the guest to talk and introduce himself or herself. So today, Reim is going to be our guest. And hi, good morning, Reim.
Good morning, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So excited to have you on board, and thank you very much for your time to be here. And let's start by saying, who's Reim?
Wow, who's Reim? I am a highly ambitious, motivated film lover who thankfully gets to live her passion every day. As an executive producer, a TV producer, and I run a group of video companies. So I've managed to transform my passion into my day job.
Yes, moving to that part, it's like a lot of businesses you're running on now. And how did it start? Like you started with one and you started to think, let me go bigger. And how long did it take you?
To be honest, I grew up always in love with the world of film and TV. So I think I knew very young that was the path for me. And I had my first work experience when I was 16 at NBC when they were still based in London. And it was like a light bulb moment that switched off in my head, where I realized this whole industry that I was super fascinated by could actually be my career. So I've kind of always been very focused in the media, film and TV world. But to answer your question, if you're familiar with this industry, you know that it changes all the time. Like there's new technology all the time, there's new innovation, there are new ways of doing things. So when I finally started my company, which was 12 years ago, I started with a specific vision of producing kind of high-end work, TV shows, TV commercials, all very, very high-end. And that was my goal. Like I wanted to be just in that space. But as time evolved, the industry evolved. And then you realize that, social media is booming and everyone wants cheap and cheerful and they want bulk content and they don't necessarily want to spend as much on this kind of big high profile content, which is why the birth of brand number 2 came, which was mainly to cater to the changes in the market. I was very obsessed with the fact that, I'd developed all this long form content for TV, and now it was the social media boom. So it was the time for YouTube and online shows. And that's why Dubai On Demand was born in 2014, initially to cater to that, to help people have a platform online and create online shows. And then, as the years went by, I realized a lot of people were asking me to do animated content and animated videos. And they didn't realize that that's a skill set we had, because I'd focused so much on the TV shows and the online content that, it kind of made sense that that should have its own brand as well. So then, we had the animated brand. And then as things developed, people were like, oh, well, you're doing our videos and you do our animation. Can you support with the social media side and the digital? So we started doing a lot of workshops and training and coaching in the social media space. And then I consult as well. So in a summary, I think the
Wow.
growth of the brands has been an evolution based on, the times and changes in the industry, but also in terms of the requests that came up. I think every time I learn something new or I see a new opportunity, I just feel like it's an opportunity to grow into that space. So that's how it's evolved.
So can we say like part of this growth, one day we might see you a movie producer?
Totally. I believe in dreaming big. In my mind, I've already visualized my Oscar. It's on the vision board.
Oh
So
my God.
watch this space. Watch this space. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I can see you there because you're so obsessed about cameras and setups and stuff like that. So moving to that, at the beginning when you started, did you have a big chunk of money to invest on video?
Not at all. I think I was one of those, like most people, you're in a job, you're working day to day. And when I left the position I was in, I knew I was in the right industry. I always loved film and TV, but I wasn't quite sure what the right next challenge was going to be. And I started freelancing in the market and suddenly found a lot of possibilities in front of me and people wanting me to do their videos and wanting me to start producing content. And I remember this very, very key pivotal conversation with a client where she said, oh, we love our videos so much. We want you to do 2 more this year. Can you do them? And I was like, I'm so sorry, I can't. I don't have a trade license. I'm a freelancer. Ethically, really, you should give it to these guys because they're the ones you've hired. And I gave her every reason under the sun not to hire me. And then I went home and I in an obsessive mode, Googled how to set up a company in Dubai, and just realized that, okay, I made an appointment the next morning and had a trade license a week later. So to answer the question about whether I had a lot of funds, that it wasn't the case. I'd been an employee till then. I'd maybe saved, but the decision to start my company was pure action based on a need. And I think everything successful in my life, everything has been taking that instant action without really overthinking it. They're not always the best decisions, but I always feel like if there's something you want to go for, you need to just run and take action as quickly as possible. And all of the best decisions in my life have been a result of that.
Cool. Now, if anybody listened to the story from the beginning, they would say, oh, she's successful from day one. She knows what to do. And step after step, now she owns a lot of businesses. She's growing and growing. But there are some hiccups. I assume.
Many hiccups, yeah.
So, what was the most challenging one?
The most challenging one. I think there were a few. I think there are some that are personal and there are some that are professional. I think on the personal side, when you suddenly leap into running a business, I didn't know what it meant to run a business. I didn't know. People don't believe this about me, but I actually don't like networking. I don't like meeting new people. It's not natural for me. Maybe that's a better way to say it. It's not a natural thing for me. I've had to push myself and force myself to get comfortable with it and understand that that's how you grow. You meet people, you have to build those relationships. So in the beginning, I think it was amazing loneliness because you go from being surrounded by employees and a team and a group, and now you're running a company on your own and you're not really sure about the next steps or how to get new business if you don't like interacting with people. And it was a huge learning curve for me. So I think that was which I overcame by joining networking groups and becoming, building that group. On the professional side, I think the biggest hiccups, and it's funny because I've had it a number of times, so maybe I'm not learning from my hiccup, I don't know. But it's like I feel that I get very overexcited by a new idea, or maybe I've learned something abroad and I come and try and implement it in this market, and I'm often too early. So, for example, when I started Dubai On Demand in 2014, I thought it was genius at that time. I was like, you know what? We're going to start creating all these online shows on YouTube, and take the power in our hands digitally. You don't need a big broadcaster to do this. And most of the brands we met at that time weren't ready. Now that sounds crazy. Now when you say YouTube show, everybody wants to get on a YouTube show. But in 2014, we got a lot of PR buzz, and everywhere we went, we'd meet a brand, and they'd be like, "Oh, we thought it was a TV show. Oh, it's on YouTube." I'm like, "Yeah, it's on YouTube. It means you can track everything. You can see the engagement. You can build an audience." And like, "Oh no, we thought it was on a TV channel. Sorry." So I spent like 2 years trying to build the momentum for Dubai Demand. Meanwhile, investing in it personally because I really wanted to see it grow. And it took me that long to realize, okay, we need to revise this business model. It's not currently working. We're not earning the way we should be, and the market wasn't ready for it. And we actually relaunched it in 2018 as something very different, which is what it is today, which is a membership model, and helping not helping anyone create their content. So thought leaders, business owners, and that's where I realized the niche was, because they're the ones who are actually struggling with being more visible or don't understand the process. And that's something I'm very passionate about. So the hiccup definitely is sometimes when you run too early, and you run for too long before you reassess and pivot the way you need to.
Okay, that was a lesson you've learned. But let's go back to your personal things and say, like, how did you survive all these like challenges and being here in Dubai and traveling from different countries and learning this and coming back and try to apply it? I mean, many challenges have been there, but the toughest moment in your life when you said, like, I can't do it anymore, or was there a moment like that when you felt yourself very weak?
I think there are unfortunately many moments like that, but what starts to happen is that you start to learn how to overcome them. I think I'd be lying if I said, oh, every day is shiny and everything's great. I'm very conscious that you need to pull yourself out of those moments. So, and maybe that's part of my journey, that I've spent a lot of time on self-development. I've spent a lot of time learning from others and like trying to implement tools with, whether it's positive mindset, whatever it may be. But yeah, there have been many. Sometimes it's a project goes horribly wrong, which doesn't happen often, but when it does, and you kind of question how, whether you're doing the right thing, whether you're in the right field, sometimes it's financial challenges. You've got these big opportunities, and maybe you're not in a position to take them the way you would be capable of. Sometimes it's team opportunities, it's the people that you're with, and something goes wrong. But I think the key to this is that the more challenges, or at least for me, I've noticed I've got better at handling them, and a big part of that is the people you surround yourself with as well. So I mentioned early on that when I started my company, it was a very lonely experience, but I think surrounding yourself with a network and other business owners and knowing who you can call in different situations has made a very big difference.
So you're saying surrounding yourself with the right kind of people, and you started with networking, as I recall. So networking in 2014 is now different than 2023. Let's say 2023, not 22. So was it active? How did you used to network 2014?
So actually, I started my company in 2011, so it's 12 years now. And in 2011, so it was actually out of panic. So when I started the company, I was like, where am I going to get new clients from? How am I going to do this? And I signed up for like every course known to man, because I just thought I need to like educate myself on everything. So anytime I saw a new course, like signing up. And I think you probably know him. One of the courses I signed up for was Reim El Houni's systematic sales. So, and I remember, being on his 2-day course, and I was like, God, I really need help with sales, and I was having this conversation with him, and he had just joined BNI at the time. He'd been there a month, which is Business Networking International, a networking group. And he said, you know what, why don't you come along? And he invited me, and I went the next week. And I don't know how familiar your audience is, or you are with the network, but
he was one of my guests actually, Ravis.
Yeah, so I ended up I went into this networking event, and BNI is a very, very organized, systematic way of networking, and they track all of your results, and to me that was really appealing, because to me I was like, this is a system, I can follow a system, I've got the guide, and I just signed up, and I ended up being a member for 10 years. And I was a director for the group for 8 years, and it was probably the best decision I made as a business owner, because that's where it opened my eyes to a lot of other businesses, a lot of other business owners, and having a bit like school, I suddenly had like this routine, this system, this, I'm going every week, I'm meeting new people, and there's some structure, and it kind of helped me get organized with, my own goal setting for my business and how I was gonna grow. So that played a big part.
So besides the moment you decided to go from being an employee to a business owner, was there any big tweaks in your life?
That's probably the biggest, but obviously, like, I moved to Dubai from London, and I think anyone who moves here has had some kind of journey where they've had to, it's quite impactful. So that was quite a big shift for me. I think even within my company, as you grow, there are different levels in your journey that require a big shift or a big change. So I mentioned just how important BNI was for me, but then I managed to get this amazing contract to produce a daily live show for Expo. And I remember sitting in this meeting, and they were talking about the timing of the show. And they're like, oh, we think it's going to be a morning show. So if it's a morning show, we want to be on air at 9 a.m. And I remember sitting there thinking, 9 a.m. That means we're going to have to be ready by 8 a.m., which means the team will need to be there by 7, which means our content needs to be by 6. And it was like this moment, this epiphany moment, where I was like, I'm going to have to leave BNI in order for me to do this, which sounds a bit crazy that I felt that emotional leaving a networking group, but it's, I was there for 10 years and I credited a lot of my growth to that point. But in one meeting, discussing this Expo project, I realized I'm going to need to leave. And I literally within 2 weeks left this 10-year journey so that I can focus on what ended up being the biggest project we've had to date. It was an amazing opportunity, and one of those projects that is worth the changes that you make. But that was definitely one shift that I felt, because I went from being surrounded by all these business owners and this group that I was used to now, you're back alone again. But thankfully, because Expo was so busy, that took all of my focus at the time.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. And you're feeling so belonging to BNI.
Really, yes. And I even though I've grown a lot in that time period, and I'm a member of other networks and I have other communities, but I still credit a lot of my growth, especially my initial growth, to BNI. So I'm a big fan, and I still have my team in there now. So I feel like I've put one of my team members, and I can see the change in her too. She's been there for over a year, and I can see the confidence increase. And so I believe in it as a platform. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, before we conclude, let's have the fun part. I'm always excited about those questions. Okay, if you have the chance to travel on time, past or future, where or when do you go?
Wow, that's a great question. I think I'm always a curious person. I love learning. I love to be ahead of trends. So I think I would go into the future. I think I'd want to go way into the future, 100 years into the future, and see exactly how everything has evolved, because the speed that it's evolving right now, I think it would be a very different world. So that's probably what I would do.
Again about business.
No, it's not just business. It's I think I just love learning. I love learning, and whether it's in my business or not, it's the technology, it's the trends, it's the innovation, it's seeing how things change, and how it impacts our day-to-day life. So yeah, I guess that's what I'm interested in.
Okay, second one is like not as crazy as this one, but on a scale 1 to 10, how strict do you define yourself?
It depends in which area. I think in some areas of my life I'm a 10, and I think in some areas of my life I'm a 1, you know, so it just it really, really depends. I think I've got very good discipline, and I think anything related to business and to work, the number is probably more on the 8 to 10, and anything related to, unfortunately, personal, and is probably more on the, you know, 1 to 3. I mean, that's the sad truth. I think I prioritize the things that drive me more, and that happens to be the business side.
That comes back to being when you just like have to be there on time, strict, very
maybe but
organized.
I think certain personality types maybe, you know, work with that kind of format and that structure. So for me, like I have a diary, I have a schedule, everything's, you know, it's if I can be disciplined, I can be organized. But if you tell me like, oh, you've got 3 hours to do nothing, then I'm like, well, what do I do with my time now, you know? So it's yeah, you have different approaches, I guess, to different parts of your life.
Nice. Okay. You've had a bad day, and what do you do, or how do you treat yourself to feel better?
Go to the cinema. I love the cinema.
Oh.
If you can't find me and I'm not answering my phone, it's because I'm in the cinema. And I get very angry with anyone who even takes out a phone in the cinema. I feel like, you know, the amount of effort and energy that has gone into this big feature film that's on the screen. I can see you
5 years or more from now, you're a movie maker. You're there.
Yeah.
And the
no,
Oscar.
But honestly, honestly, it's like there's something about going to the cinema and the environment and the screen and the popcorn and the whole experience. For me, I can go into the cinema miserable and I can come out ecstatic. So that's where I would go. Nice.
I know some people who go there only for the popcorn, because it's different. It's like different taste than home, but yeah, they enjoy it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Reim El Houni, and simply in like 20 minutes. I know it's a big thing to frame, but we tried our best, and she was wonderful. So that was me, Daniel Tokat, Monday Talks, and with a great mind, great story, Reim El Houni. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Have a lovely day.